Why does Malaysia have what it takes to become one of the world's richest countries? In order to understand Malaysia's current situation, as it has evolved over the years, it is imperative to mention the key historical aspects of the country. If these events are omitted, we will not be able to fully understand the situation Malaysia finds itself in today and the tremendous assets the country has at its disposal. On 31st August 1957, the Federation of Malaya gained independence from the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. At the time, Malaysia was one of the poorest countries in the world. Until the mid-1970s, the economy was typically based on commodities and agriculture. Since the mid-1970s, Malaysia's economic growth has been driven by exports, particularly of electronic products and natural resources, and inflows of foreign direct investment. In particular, exports of crude oil, palm oil, and liquefied natural gas have benefited Malaysia for several decades from the steady rise in fuel and commodity prices in world markets. At the time, Malaysia's GDP was compared to countries such as Ghana, Haiti, and Honduras. In 1981, Dr. Tun Mahathir bin Mohamad came to power and remained Prime Minister for 22 years, until 2003. The Prime Minister privatized almost all state-owned enterprises. These ranged from electricity, water, and roads to healthcare. As a result, he is considered the father of Malaysia's economic success. It was under his rule that the country's GDP increased several times over. After Mahathir came to power, the Islamization of the country began. The aim of this process was to increase the role of Islam in public life and gradually adapt it to the needs of stable economic development. The intention was to spread Islam and find another common denominator among Malaysians. In 1983, the Malaysian government announced a policy of privatization aimed at public-private cooperation. Privatization led to the involvement of the private sector in major investments, particularly in transport, telecommunications, and energy. The introduction of public-private partnership solutions required the introduction of new legislation. Business regulations have been reformed, the services sector has been liberalized, state subsidies have been withdrawn, regulations have been introduced to protect competitiveness and to improve relations between the government and the private sector. Since 2009, private sector investment has been overseen by the Public-Private Partnership Unit under the Prime Minister's Department. This unit manages and evaluates projects that require funding from a special fund set up to stimulate private sector investment and bridge the viability gap for projects of strategic importance. Private sector involvement has resulted in mega projects such as the Port Dickson Highway, the 3 surface and underground transport systems in Kuala Lumpur, the Kuala Lumpur International Airport, and the Petronas Twin Tower. Malaysia has been modernizing rapidly over the past 5 decades and is gradually moving up the value chain by attracting investment in high-tech, knowledge-based industries and services. It is ahead of its neighbors in terms of labor productivity. Malaysia's current situation. Malaysia can be very proud of its achievements over the past 2 decades. Since 2000, real GDP growth has averaged 5.5% per annum. In addition, the life expectancy of Malaysians has increased by almost 3 years. This performance is partly the result of the country's efforts to diversify its economy, strengthen its financial sector, and focus on sustainable growth. These efforts have made Malaysia a more resilient country, able to withstand the impact of global crises. One of the key factors in Malaysia's success has been to take advantage of its favorable geographical location, which has allowed it to develop trade links and promote integration. The country has established itself as a global manufacturing powerhouse, producing computers, mobile phone parts, semiconductors, and many other products. But Malaysia is not just about manufacturing. It is also about innovation. It has become a hub for technological development, as evidenced by the presence of the Bayan Lepas Free Trade Zone, also known as the Eastern Silicon Valley. In recent years, many startups have sprung up across the country in sectors ranging from digital media to online financial services and online recruitment agencies. Investment in Malaysia reached a record $73 billion in 2021, up 83% year-on-year. The manufacturing sector, particularly electronics and electrical, played a key role in attracting projects worth more than $40 billion in 2021, up 114% year-on-year. The state of Penang, the center of semiconductor manufacturing in the Southeast Asian region, has benefited the most from these investments. In recent decades, East Asia has become a hub for the production of electronics, such as smartphones, televisions, and semiconductors. This is a breakthrough for Malaysia, which has seen its highest growth in decades. In the midst of a severe global economic recession, Malaysia seems to have found a way to maintain growth. According to Bloomberg, in 2022, Malaysia was growing at the fastest pace in over 2 decades, making it the fastest growing economy in Asia despite the difficulties caused by the crisis. This demonstrates Malaysia's impressive ability to adapt and maintain growth momentum in the face of global challenges. Strategic strengths on the road to prosperity. Malaysia has a number of assets that allow it to aspire to be one of the world's richest countries. One of the most important factors is Malaysia's phenomenal location on the Straits of Malacca. The Strait of Malacca is a strategic sea lane that connects the Andaman Sea to the South China Sea, separating the Malay Peninsula from Sumatra. It forms the boundary between the Pacific and Indian Oceans and has played a key role in the international transport of oil since 1950. Connecting the Indian and Pacific Oceans, it is one of the most important hubs for international maritime trade. The Strait of Malacca plays a key role in the economies of countries such as China, Japan, India, Taiwan, and South Korea. Its strategic importance has attracted the interest of the armed forces of countries such as India, China, and the United States. It is also the shortest sea route between the Middle East and East Asia, helping to reduce transport time and costs between these regions and Europe. The strategic location of the Strait of Malacca makes it an important waterway for the transport of hydrocarbons, containers, and bulk goods. According to the U.S. Energy Information Agency, EIA, an average of 16 million barrels per day of crude oil and 3.2 million barrels per day of liquefied natural gas passed through the strait in 2016. This is the second highest volume in the world after the Strait of Hormuz, which connects the Persian Gulf to the Indian Ocean. The Strait of Malacca, which is 900 kilometers long, handles around 40% of the world's trade. Every year, more than 100,000 ships pass through this route, a number that has doubled in the last 2 decades, demonstrating the enormous potential. With this strategic location, Malaysia has a unique opportunity to capitalize on its strengths and seek to further develop and consolidate its position as a global economic powerhouse. The Strait of Malacca is not only a symbol of regional integration, but also a key element in Malaysia's success in becoming one of the world's richest countries, shifting economic power to Asia. With the dynamic changes on the global economic stage, Malaysia is playing an increasingly important role as a country with extraordinary potential, and its strategic location is crucial in this context. McKinsey predicts that the world's economic center of gravity will continue to shift towards Asia in the coming years. This marks a return to where the history of trade and economic growth began, all the way back to the ancient Silk Road. We are now witnessing the transformation of the global economy as Asia becomes the dominant trading region, driving the growth of modern communities and businesses. China and India, 2 giant nations, account for 36% of the world's population and generate 25% of global GDP. Together with other emerging economies, they are shaping the future of the global economy. By 2030, non-OECD economies are expected to account for as much as 57% of global GDP. In this context, Malaysia is in a unique position. Its phenomenal location on the Strait of Malacca makes it a strategic trade hub. The Strait of Malacca is the shortest sea route between the Middle East and East Asia, helping to reduce transport time and costs between these regions and Europe. This location is crucial. Situated on this strategic route, Malaysia is perfectly placed to capitalize on the potential of a shift in economic power towards Asia. The country's economy is becoming increasingly important on the global stage. it is worth noting that China and India will increasingly influence global manufacturing. China's GDP is expected to surpass that of the United States by 2035, while India could do the same by 2075. The individual purchasing power of citizens in the West will remain higher than in China and India, suggesting that there will be no single economically dominant country. By 2030, as many as 4.8 billion people will be in the middle class. Two-thirds of this globalized and affluent population will live in the Asia-Pacific region. The center of the world's economy and trade is shifting from the Atlantic to the Pacific. In this transition, Malaysia stands at the crossroads of great change and is gaining prominence in the dynamic context of the global economy. Its location on the Straits of Malacca makes it a key player in this economic shift towards Asia. Another important feature of Malaysia that favors the economy is the modern and innovative society. Malaysia, a country of 33 million people, is becoming an increasingly visible player on the world stage thanks to the unique characteristics of its society and its innovative achievements. This is due to its relatively young population and high-tech approach to economic development. With 95 people per square kilometer, Malaysia is one of the most densely populated countries in the world. The population is relatively young, with an average age of 29.2 years. The country has been successful in technology and digitalization. According to data, Malaysians rank 6th in the world in the number of hours spent online per day, thanks to a high internet penetration rate of 90%. This is a society ready to harness the potential of technology in the process of economic development. The economic center of gravity is clearly shifting towards Asia, and Malaysia is seizing the opportunity. Other countries can learn from its example by focusing on digitalization, investing in research and development, and promoting innovative technological solutions. Semiconductor manufacturing is becoming a key area for Malaysia, and the East Asian region, including Malaysia, is a major contributor to the global production of electronic components. Today, East Asia dominates the production of semiconductors and other advanced technologies. They produces 90% of computer memory chips, DRAM, 75% of processors, and 80% of silicon wafers. Malaysia is therefore poised to harness its modern and innovative society to remain at the forefront of technological advancement in the region and the world. Its potential and the commitment of its young population are key to sustainable economic growth and innovation. Thank you for watching the video. Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. See you next video.